being unique and different is often ridiculed, but it is literally our uniqueness and differences that actually sets us apart. What's good, family? Welcome back. You're checked in with Ameer and Naseer. And before we get started with today's video, family, as always, I wish you all inner wealth, which we know is the overall state of our holistic health, family. So today's video is actually a surprise for me. I actually intended to do a different video today, but something happened to me earlier this week where I knew I had to do a video regarding dying to fit in, right? I just knew it. So today's video is about dying to fit in because of something that I encountered earlier this week. So it just fell on my heart, soul, and spirit to talk about this. And I just want to lead with this. Is art an imitation of life, or is life an imitation of art? So with regards to dying to fit in, something that exists heavily in society right now is this idea of conformity, right? And so unfortunately, being unique and different is often ridiculed, but it is literally our uniqueness and differences that actually sets us apart, that enables us to stand out, that enables us to use our light, our gifts, our God-given gifts, to serve humanity, to make a difference, an imprint on earth, and fulfill our soul's purpose, fulfill our soul's divine purpose here. But often, and you see it very heavily in today's environment, unfortunately, that being unique or different is often ridiculed because society has programmed everyone to conform. But conform to what? And so this idea of conformity, it trickles over into a lot of different areas of life. So some examples will be appearance, social interactions, social clubs, right? And then another example would be where this conformity may have an effect is in mainstream culture. And I specifically want to emphasize mainstream Black culture. So let's start with appearance, right? So an example of conformity with regards to appearance, the need to, or the feeling that one may need to dress a certain way. One may need to buy the latest designer to feel validated or to fit in with said group or said crowd. Or one may need to be present his or herself in a certain way. So you get the point with appearance. So that's an example of the conformity with regards to appearance, right? So when we think about social interactions, right? Unfortunately, some people social climb. They social climb. What I mean by social climb is they base their relationships with people, or they base their friendships with people on superficial realities, often sometimes rooted in what that person can do for them, and not befriending this said person because of just who they are at their core. It may be rooted, again, as I just mentioned, in what can that person do for them, or what affiliations is this person, a part of that may benefit the other person. And so you often see in society, a lot of superficial social interactions because, again, with this idea of conformity, if everyone is doing the same thing, if everyone is out for the same goal, if everyone is convinced and tricked and programmed into wanting this said thing that doesn't exist, right? People are willing to do anything, say anything, just to get honestly nowhere. So they think they're getting somewhere, but in the grand scheme of life, in the grand scheme of things, people are getting nowhere when they align their actions with conformity with regards to said end goal. Because the goal doesn't exist, since it is attached to these ideas of conformity and superficiality, right? Another point that I want to emphasize is, and actually it is related to social interactions too, but think about fraternities and sororities, right? Again, conformity. you have a line of people or a group of people, men or women. They join the fraternity or sorority, right? They all pledge. Everyone is supposed to be uniform. When they do their probates, everyone is in a line, identifiable by numbers or line names, things of that nature. But now these men and women take on the identity of this demonic entity that's attached to said organization, whether it's Omega Psi Phi, Kappa Alpha Psi, Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Alpha Phi Alpha, like the entire Divine Nine. You'll have people's identities now wrapped up in this demonic entity. And now they're expected to act, behave, think, and present themselves in, a certain manner, all because they've joined said organization, right? But again, it goes back to dying to fit in, right? And in this particular situation, people are literally dying to fit in. There are so many accounts, from the earliest days of when these organizations were started to even now, modern day, where young men and women have died, trying to join these organizations, whether it was from excessive beating, whether it was from alcohol, poisoning or overconsumption of alcohol, whether it was from sleep deprivation, which led to a car accident. There are so many horror stories attached to young men and women who, chose to, seek membership into these organizations, all rooted in dying to fit in. People are literally dying to fit in, right? And so I want to give an example of my own life as well before moving forward to my next point. So before I started, in the previous video, I talked about how I stopped drinking. I had stopped going to bars and clubs quite some time now. It's been quite some time. So I'm actually really proud of myself. But it's been quite some time since, I've even seen the inside of a bar or club. But during that time, you could say I was dying to fit in, even though my intentions weren't to actually fit in, but subconsciously I was dying to fit in. So I remember at the time, the group of people who I thought were my friends, I would go out to fellowship with them, right? So the bar and club, it was never my environment, right? It was never my thing. But in my head, I would always tell myself, okay, but you're friends with X, Y, Z. And so I'll just go just so that I can fellowship with them, right? Over time, though, the environment, it made me so uncomfortable. I knew I didn't belong there. So over time, I just, in divine timing, made that, that switch. I had to cut off my participation in those activities, right? Because it was killing me spiritually, it was killing my soul, because now I'm not being true to myself at the expense of others. So now I'm neglecting my own needs, I'm neglecting my own health at the expense of others who who aren't my friends, right? So it all doesn't matter, again, in the grand scheme of life. I'm not friends with these people anymore. And even at the time I argued, I wasn't. And time revealed those relationships had an expiration date. And honestly, I would say the last sign for me during that time period that also signaled, hey, yeah, just, stop your participation in these activities immediately, is when I reflected on, I don't even see these people outside of this environment that continues to make me uncomfortable. So I knew there were just many things not adding up. And so I did just want to share that example as well of how my participation in an activity that I deep down inside just knew didn't align with who I was, that I wasn't fond of, that also made me uncomfortable. It was slowly killing me spiritually and on a soul level. And so I had to let go before I went down a road or path that could have been worse. And so moving forward, I also want to emphasize mainstream culture, and specifically mainstream Black culture, right? So again, thinking about dying to fit in. And remember the question I asked earlier, does art imitate life or does life imitate art? And I argue in today's time, you still have people you still have pure artists, you still have pure consciousness, you still have individuals who are unique, who are set aside, and who are different, such as myself and yourselves, right? But you do have an instance in which a lot of life, honestly, in today's time, imitates art, right? So a lot of the culture that's produced through, or a lot of Black culture, I say culture loosely, that's produced through, mainstream mediums, it's all rooted in self-destructive behaviors, self-sabotage. It's all rooted in just a lot of, wickedness. It's rooted in a lot of, again, it's just self-destructive and self-sabotaging behaviors, right? But then this becomes the norm for Black people in America. And then this is how we're viewed overseas, right? And this is also what's displayed overseas. So even when I studied abroad in Cape Town, South Africa, so they also would ask questions about, mainstream Black American culture, or there were certain aspects of Black American culture that they tried to adopt there, thinking it's cool, but it's not, right? And so now you have people within the Black community who will then try to emulate these behaviors and model them in their own personal life, right? So now they're listening to mainstream, rap or drill music, or an evolutionized version of hip hop to a fault, because the initial roots of hip hop were actually righteous and rooted in consciousness and rebellion against the status quo and against the power structures that try to oppress Black America. But now you have this evolution to a fault in this realm and genre of music. And so you'll see a lot of people within the Black communities nationwide, right, emulate these negative stereotypes. So that's why I posed the question, and honestly, we know the answer, that life is now imitating art. There was once a time where art imitated life, but now life is actually imitating art. So now the stereotypes that are, produced through mainstream mediums, purposely, I do want to emphasize this is not a coincidence. It's done intentionally, right? To keep people distracted, to keep a people in servitude, to keep a people in an oppressive state, right? To keep a people from progressing, from building nations, from building thriving communities, from uniting with each other. This is all done purposely. Just think about who owns the mainstream music and entertainment industries. Think about who sits at the top of those executive positions at record labels and at studios. Just think. And you already know the answer, right? And so with that being said, again, Black people are not a monolithic people. But yet we have so many, again, trying to model these mainstream caricatures and stereotypes of what it means to be Black. How outrageous is that? But yet we fall for it. So now the deeper question is, what is Black culture? How do we define culture? Who are we as a people? Where do we come from? What have we experienced and been through? Where are we right now, present day? And where do we desire to go? So these are some deep questions to think about and reflect on. But I just want to reiterate, again, at the expense of even modeling these mainstream stereotypes that are not true to who we actually are as a people, we are now dying to fit in. Fit in where? Trying to fit into these stereotypes, we fall so much further from our glory. We fall so much further from grace when we really think about who we really are, when we really think about the contributions we've made to civilizations beginning in the motherland of Africa and then outward into every aspect, every landmass that exists on planet Earth. We have got to focus. And so I just wanted to, again, this video was really inspired by and it's something that occurred to me earlier this week. And so I just made a note to myself, just really talk about this concept of dying to fit in. And I just want to reiterate to all of you, don't die to fit in. Continue to be set apart as God has informed us that we are, right? We are set apart. We're set apart from this world. So continue to lean into your uniqueness, your differences, your innate gifts, talents, skills, and abilities. Continue to use those to spread light, love, and peace, serve humanity, make a difference, fulfill your soul's divine purpose, make an imprint on earth, leave behind a legacy that transcends the test of time. So even when we're not physically on this earth, our work and our deeds and what we work so hard for, it still remains. We would have left traces of our existence, traces that we were once here, right? And so I just really want to emphasize, this point. So there's no need to die to fit in. Why would we die to fit in when we are just we're just so worthy, right? We are just so much more powerful beyond what the human mind can even conceive or conceptualize, right? So why fit in when we are much different? We are much higher than what this world has to offer. When we understand our identity in God, when we understand our pure, true, and divine form, our pure, true, and divine essence, we understand there's no need to die to fit in. There's no need. Our uniqueness is needed to spread light back into a dark world. So we need to not die to fit in. It stops today. All right? So, again, family, thank you for checking in. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And as always, before I let you go, I wish you all inner wealth, which we know is the overall state of our holistic health, family. Peace.